John Wick is a franchise that's received high praise from the audience, and much like the films themselves, these facts are equally exciting, because how about a crossover? Yup, John Wick has a dialogue from The Matrix. The phrase, "guns, lots of guns," is a memorable quote from The Matrix. It's spoken by Neo and John, showing their determination and willingness to fight against the oppressive forces. More than that, it highlights the need for those who are fighting for freedom to be well armed and to not be afraid to use force when necessary. Interestingly enough, the same phrase is used in a conversation between John Wick and Winston. The writers try to be sneaky, only we're smarter. Speaking of which, the writers for the John Wick series didn't just stop with dialogue. They made a perfect drink for the perfect man. In the first John Wick film, the character Aurelio offers John a drink of Peligroso, a brand of tequila. Now, how is that a bit of smart writing, you might ask? Well, here's the deal. The name of the brand, Peligroso, roughly translates to dangerous in English. This is fitting, given that John Wick is a highly skilled and deadly assassin who is known for his ruthless efficiency in taking out his targets. And yeah, I get it. You might be thinking that this is a typical case of reading too much into details. But hey, at the end of the day, small details like this add to the characterization of a character and help train the audience's brain regarding a character. But if that excites you this much, how about a special visit? You can actually visit the Continental. Well, sort of. It's no secret that many scenes in the John Wick movies were filmed in New York City. And what does that bring with it? Access to a bunch of fan-favorite locations. One of which is the Continental Hotel that John Wick so very often visits. The only problem is, it's not actually named that. In fact, Delmonico's building at 2 South William Street in Manhattan is what was used to picture the infamous hotel. The exterior of this building was used as the exterior for the Continental. Unfortunately, the interior is nothing like the Continental though. But hey, now that you've got the address for it, maybe go and have some Instagram-worthy pictures there. I know that you live for it. But while we're at it, just make sure not to be interested in everything that happened while shooting for the franchise. For instance, wearing a head cover for an injury? Not cool. The late Michael Nyqvist, who played the main villain, Viggo Tarasov, in John Wick, was a dedicated performer, but there was something really painful happening in the back. You may have noticed that Viggo is sometimes seen wearing a hat in the film, and other times he is not. Guess why that was? Nyqvist suffered an injury during filming. His head was split open in a physical scene, and he had to get stitches. As a result, a wig couldn't be used, so Nyqvist suggested wearing a hat for the rest of the film. Any scene where Viggo is seen wearing a hat is post-injury. Now that we've mentioned it, don't ruin your movie watching experience trying to figure it out. Wasn't this supposed to be film shooting? Why are people getting hurt in actuality? Can we please keep it fictitious? Like copying stuff from a bunch of other movies? But wait, did you notice one specific thing? Didn't the bike chase bring about some forgotten memory? That's because it's literally a shot for shot from another bike chase in another movie called The Villainess. And by shot for shot, we actually mean that if you place both scenes together, there's a high chance that you'll be questioning who might have copied who. Rotten Tomatoes describes The Villainess as a hyper-violent revenge movie with fight scenes that are incredibly intense and thrilling to watch. But we aren't here to discuss Korean films, are we? Although I must say that fans of John Wick might have just landed on another piece of film that they can watch. But it's not just John Wick that's influenced by other media. The process passes on. A bunch of games being influenced by the franchise. For example, after the success of the John Wick film, a couple of video games were developed. The first one, John Wick Chronicles, was a virtual reality game that was released in 2017, around the same time as the first sequel. The second game, John Wick Hex, was a prequel game that was released in 2019. Both games are based on the concept of a trained killer going around New York and shooting a lot of people, which is the core premise of the John Wick film franchise. Moreover, John Wick as a character has appeared in a bunch of other games, such as Fortnite and Cyberpunk. Well, maybe that's just Keanu, but hey, we like to think it's John, don't we? I mean, the more the merrier, right? Oh, and we heard a thing about watches. Notice how John wears his watch facing the other side? Yup, there's a reason for that. Now, you might be thinking, come on, man, how can there be some story behind every detail? Hey, we didn't make the movie, but aren't you glad there is one? Anyway, wearing the watch with its face on the inside instead of the outside, you're actually showing that you're a specially trained individual. How? Because this is a technique used by special forces and combat soldiers to avoid reflecting light from the sun or moon, which can give away their position in stealth situations. Smart. But you know what's even smarter? The timeline for the first 3 movies is only a week long. Oh yeah, that's definitely true. And you would have noticed it if you were looking for it. Like, remember how John Wick is bleeding in the 3rd film when the movie starts? That's because it picks up from exactly where the 2nd film ended. And much like the 3rd film, the 2nd installment did the same thing. It starts literally 4 days after the events of the first one. Jeez, imagine having to go through all of that in just a matter of days. A week, to be precise. No wonder he never smiles. But you sure will when you realize what's about to happen next. John Wick isn't going anywhere anytime soon. While you've already enjoyed 3 films in the series already, brace yourselves for a bunch more. Yup, there's a lot coming your way, and the next one is only a few months out. If you can be patient, you'll be able to watch the 4th film in March this year. Plus, the 5th film is already in the works. How about that? You never know. We might actually get a surprise announcement for a bunch more, because let's be honest, at this point, the franchise deserves some spin-offs as well. Don't you think? Oh, and if you're a wrestling fan, you may want to stick around, because get this, we had a wrestler in the cast. Yes, there's a reason why Francis seemed so familiar, and that's because he's a well-known pro wrestler and an original member of the NWO in real life. Kevin Nash plays the small role of Francis, the bouncer at the nightclub that Wick chooses to spare in the movie. Maybe John sensed that he was the only real match that he has in the John Wick universe. Jokes aside, Nash is also known for his time as Diesel in the then WWF. And that wraps up a bunch of interesting facts and details about the John Wick franchise. See you in the next video.